I call the regular meeting of the Milliken Board of Trustees for July 13th, 2022 to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Will the town clerk please call roll?
Trustee Beckman? Here. Trustee Dean?
Here.
Trustee Lane?
Here.
Trustee Rodriguez?
Here.
Trustee Wakeman?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich?
Here.
Mayor Austin?
Here. Okay. Does anyone have any additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll take a motion.
Move to approve agenda as printed.
Second.
Town clerk, please call for a vote.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Trustee Lane?
Yes.
Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Trustee Beckman?
Yes.
Trustee Wakeman?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mayor Austin?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Do we have any citizens' comments this evening? Zoom. Okay. We'll skip over that commentary and we will go right to the meeting minutes. Is there any discussion or comments on the meeting minutes of June 20th, 2022?
Mayor, I do have one minor correction. I noted that Trustee Wakeman said no to the license agreement for Millhouse, and it should be yes.
Okay. Any other adjustments? Hearing none, I'll take a motion.
Motion to approve
As adjusted?
as adjusted.
Thank you.
Second.
Town clerk, please call for a vote.
Trustee Lane?
Yes.
Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Trustee Wakeman?
Yes.
Trustee Beckman?
Yes.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mayor Austin?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Now we'll have our town administrator's report. Administrator Powell, tell us all good things, please.
Sure will. I just wanted to mention that I attended the Colorado Municipal League Conference along with trustees Beckman, Dean, and Lane, and Town Clerk Carrie Reinbarger. We would like to report on this, if we could, at the July 27th meeting.
Okay.
Still waiting on ALO regarding the master licensing agreement. Attorney Ken Fellman reached out to him today to see where they're at on that. Good thing. Children from the Boys and Girls Club spent part of their day last week picking up trash around Centennial Lake. And so we're planning on providing them ice cream and popsicles as long as we have approval from the staff at Boys and Girls Club to do so. So we just want them to thank them for being good stewards and encourage this going forward. On July 12th, we had 2 new employees start. We have a new code enforcement officer, Adrian Montanez, started. A new police officer, Joshua Lopez, and I'm sure at the next town board meeting we'll have them both in for introductions. And, quick update. So I did receive from Chief Garcia that we had 21 firework complaints from June through July 4th. 2 summonses were issued during that. What they found that the reporting party didn't usually leave a name, therefore making it harder to find the violators. And by the time the officers got there and they would see them coming, they'd stop doing what they were doing But it did sound like it was better this year, but there were 2 summons issued.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Do we have any further comments, questions of the town administrator? Could you report on the date that our motor at the Centennial was fixed?
That occurred, what was the date on that? Do you remember, Keith?
Like a week and a half.
Okay.
Right. And yeah, so that was up and running. I believe we were in CML when that started, so started up again. And then we did have to shut it down for about 6 hours one day. Keith had discovered a pretty severe leak in the non-potable line. So they repaired that in one day.
Was that on South Alice? Was it on South
No.
Alice? Because I noticed a lot of water running down the gutter there, and it looked like it was a head, but it might have been more than a head.
No, this was
No.
on the south side of Centennial Lake.
Okay. Might check South Alice.
No,
too.
that's the sprinklers that are running too long because of the landscape company doesn't have them set properly,
Okay.
and the Metro District.
There's a lot of water going down the gutters there. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So-
Is that a HOA or Metro District?
It's
So
Metro.
it's out of town.
Yeah, it is the Metro District. I said something to John about it.
Okay.
So I do want to commend our staff for handing out the hydrant meters and persevering through 3.5 weeks of tense time when we were not able to provide non-potable water. Worked very diligently, and I thank them for their efforts. And as you drive around town, you may notice that the grass is greening up. It is coming back. There's a few areas that still need to be addressed by, I believe it's Metro District, and some tree problems at Settlers. But overall, it's beginning to look better. So, thank you. All right. Any other comments? Okay, we'll move to the consent agenda. Consideration and adoption of Resolution 2213 for bank signatures. I'll take a motion.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Town clerk, please call for a vote.
Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Trustee Wakeman?
Yes?
Trustee Beckman?
Yes.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Trustee Lane?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mayor Austin?
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. And next item, we'll move to the action agenda. So we've got the 2021 audited financial statements. Wade Nickerson, Finance Director.
Good evening. We have here with us tonight Haney and Company, who did the 2021 audit for us. I'm going to introduce Christine McLeod. She's going to go over kind of the high-level details, what's on there, and then we'll take questions when she's finished. Christine?
Perfect. Good evening, Mayor and Board of Trustees. Thanks for having us here to present the required communications from the 2021 audit. It's been a pleasure to work with Wade and Courtney and their staff. They were great at providing us all the information that we needed to get through the audit process very efficiently and effectively. So I just, first of all, like to thank them in working with us to be able to get that process completed so that we can be here tonight giving you the required communications and ensure that the reporting is filed on time with the state by the July 31st deadline. I'm just going to give you a little bit of an overview of the audit process, just how we go about our audits. As Wade said, I'm Christine McLeod. I'm an audit partner with Haney and Company. Our firm performed the audit fieldwork. Abby Irvine is a senior auditor with Haney, and she was out here in the field working very closely with staff on the audit. So I'm going to just give you kind of a general overview of our process, and then Abby's going to present a few financial highlights, and then we'll take any questions that you might have in regards to the process or the report. So first thing I'll do is just go over that scope and methodology, talk about the communications that we're required to bring to you as governance of the town. Then we'll have those financial highlights, and we'll talk about any new accounting pronouncements and standards looking forward. We kind of like to look forward as we close out this year as to what might be coming that you might want to pay attention to for 2022. So I can just click there. Okay. Gotta learn how to work the technology here. So the first thing is we take a risk-based approach to your audit. We go ahead and we address any risks. We take a look at all of the account balances and where there might be the greatest risk of material misstatement. We develop procedures, audit procedures to address those risks. The main risks that are significant would be revenue recognition, and so we will dive in a little bit to revenue transactions and take a look at those, anything that has a significant balance on the financial statements, and we will tailor our procedures in relation to those risks. We vary our procedures year to year. Of course, this is our first year as your auditor, so because you have fresh eyes looking at it, there likely were some different procedures that were performed than what was maybe used to by your staff in prior years, and so every year we'll vary those just a little bit in case there's anything going on. We walk through your internal controls. We take a look at those, and as part of developing those procedures, we don't test internal controls, but we take a look to make sure that there are controls that are there, and it helps us in developing those procedures. There was not a single audit this year. The ARPA funds have not been spent, and so when those are spent over that $750,000, then a single audit will be required, but there's no single audit this year. There is an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, so we did not, everything is given a clean bill of health. We did not find any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal controls to report to you, so that's always good. Just moving on. I'm probably pressing the wrong button here. Right? Oh, there. Okay. So in regards to the required communications, we are required to report to you if there were any changes in accounting policies or if there's any significant new accounting policies. So as you read through the draft report, you can see the accounting policies in the notes, and there's been no changes since the prior year. In regards to estimates, some of the account balances in the financials are based on estimates as opposed to an actual number, and those estimated balances would be in relation to pension. When you look at the financial statements, you'll see a net pension asset, you'll see deferred inflows, deferred outflows. Those are based on actuarial calculations, so those are estimates based on how the market is going to perform, life expectancies, those type of estimates. And another estimate is an estimate of the depreciable lives of the fixed assets, and that's just based on historical knowledge as to how long those assets are going to last, what the life is on those assets. There were no disagreements with management to report. As I said, no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. A significant deficiency would be something that we would want to bring to your attention that might be a weakness in an internal control that might not necessarily create a misstatement on the financial statements. A material weakness would be something that is a weakness in controls that is probable that it would create a material misstatement in the financial statements. There are none of those to report. In regards to other findings, I think when we were looking at utility bills, we did notice that there's an average sewer rate that's being used to bill, and so that average rate is calculated. I think it's based on the December through February usage, and so if you have new customers that don't have usage during that time, if they didn't have new usage until March, it's not picking up an average rate. There's no usage there, so we would just recommend to bring that to the attention of management, something you might consider calculating kind of an overall average customer rate for those customers. It just might be an opportunity to collect revenue from customers that are existing customers but have not yet established that average sewer rate. So we try to bring any kind of items like that to your attention to consider. Again, nothing that's a material weakness or a significant deficiency in regards to financial reporting, just more of an opportunity for the town. With that, I'm going to let Abby go over some of the financial highlights, and then we'll talk about the future.
Good evening. My name is Abby Irvine with Haney & Company CPAs. I was on site to help perform the audit this year. I'm just going to go over some financial highlights within the audit report itself. So this first graph displays the sales and use tax and property tax revenues. These are the primary sources of revenues in your governmental funds. So if you read through the audit report, we present several different sets of financial statements. We've got financial statements on governmental funds. We have financial statements on proprietary funds or enterprise funds or business type funds. Those are all kind of used interchangeably. And then there's a government-wide set of financial statements, which takes those two financial statements, puts them together, and then adds some additional long-term type reporting on the financials. So this specifically is just revenues in your governmental funds. Christine mentioned revenues as an area that we dig into. Just wanted to display graphically kind of the trend increasing. You can see sales and use tax definitely bounced back in 2021. Went from 2.4, and these are in millions or thousands rounded, 2.4 million to 3.2 million. Property taxes increased slightly, so bounced back in 2021.
Next.
The next graph, it's hard to see this graph, but it's included in the audit packet. So the audit packet includes a section called the MD&A. The MD&A is the management discussion and analysis. It's kind of a high-level overview of the financial results of the year. This just breaks down again for the governmental funds, the revenues by source and the expenses by activity. So you'll notice in the audit report that those get broken down, and the two largest sections on the graph relate to the previous slide, and this is on the revenue graph. You've got sales and use tax, and property tax, and then there's other sources of revenue that make up a smaller percentage. And then on the expense side, it's broken down by activity. Next, these are the enterprise fund highlights. So enterprise funds would be water, sewer, trash. These are, again, also referred to as your business type activities. The types of funds that charge for providing a service, utilities. The blue graph shows revenue, orange is expense, and so you can see in basically every fund, revenues exceeded expenses. So each individual fund had an increase, we call it an increase in net position for the year. So revenues exceeded expenses. The one on the far left is the water fund. Particularly, that one's a little bit larger. The water and sewer have, they have utility charges, but also charge plant investment fees and tap fees. And so those are included in the revenue. And there was more activity, or a large amount of activity in those this year as well. Well, one thing I wanted to point out on the Stormwater Fund, in particular, this is mentioned in the audit report, there was a budget overage, meaning there was an expense that went over budget in that particular fund. There was some funds spent from that fund that were actually, I think, allocated for the impact fund. The Stormwater Fund had the money, it spent the money, but it was budgeted in the impact fund. So that when there's a particular fund that goes over budget, that is mentioned in the audit report. Next up, long-term liabilities. So this is an area of audit focus just because there's a significant amount of disclosure surrounded. If you read through the audit report, there's quite a few notes on the bonds. So long-term liabilities include bonds, includes capital leases, it includes, there's a water note. And I think those are the primary ones. And so though no new activity this year, just really paying down. Those are amortizing out. There's $700,000 that is due next year. One area that we wanted to mention, again, this is in the audit report, mentioned on page 35. There was a prior period adjustment related to, it was long-term liabilities and capital assets. So as we were kind of digging in and learning a little bit about the lease agreements, there was a lease agreement on some equipment that didn't meet the accounting definition for a capital lease. So capital lease is where you lease a piece of equipment and essentially you're going to own it at the end. You own it over its life, and for accounting purposes, you can capitalize that, and then the asset goes on the books and the whole lease liability goes on the books. As we were digging in and kind of reading that agreement, we realized that it didn't really meet the accounting treatment or the accounting guidelines to be classified that way. And so because it was recorded, these leases were recorded on the books in 2020, and we basically removed them, the asset and the liability, which caused a prior period adjustment or a restatement. You'll notice there's a couple statements in the financial statements that say as restated, and that's what that relates to. And finally, net position. The net position is basically what's left over, assets minus liabilities. It can be used as a measure of financial stability of the town, and it's broken out by both your governmental funds and also your business type funds or proprietary funds. Both increased this year. You can see the change from 2020 to 2021. Both went up about, in total, almost $5 million. Each fund went up governmental fund went up about $2 million. Business type fund went up about a little over $2 million. So both increased, and those increase when revenues exceed expenses, and then other increases in assets or decreases in liabilities would affect the net position. Net position is also broken down into a restricted portion, a portion that's invested in capital assets, and then an amount that's unrestricted. So basically available for spending. The available for spending portion in the governmental funds was $10.2 million at the end of the year, and $4.7 million in the business type funds. All right, Christine's going to talk about some upcoming accounting pronouncements, and if there's any questions at the end of the presentation, we're happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Abby. I'm actually going to go back a little bit because I realized I didn't talk about the audit adjustments, and that was on one of the slides, and I realized I didn't address that. So I'm just going to mention there were very few audit adjustments. The few that we had are just some general accruals. I know there was an accrual for HU2F funds that were received after year end that needed to be accrued into 2021. A very small adjustment. Accrual adjustments like that are quite common. The other adjustment we had was to reflect the ARPA funds and pull them out of revenue and back onto the balance sheet, just in accordance with grant accounting. They can't be recognized into revenue until the expenditures are made. And so that adjustment was made. And I know the ARPA funds are new, so the guidance on that was constantly changing. So I think we had finally, determined how those needed to be treated by the time we got here. So that was an adjustment that you'll see that gets attached to the management communications letter. And then the only other one is also related to those leases, where all the entries related to those leases as they were entered as capital leases were reversed because they were not deemed to be capital leases. So I think there were maybe those 3 or 4 adjustments that were made. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention because that is a required communication. I'll now just talk a little bit about upcoming accounting pronouncements, GASB pronouncements. The biggest one that we're facing next year is in regards to leases. And so I know we were talking about capital leases. A lot of times now with GASB 87, even operating leases will be presented similarly to a capital lease, where they will need to present the right of use asset and the liability on the balance sheet. So we'll work with Wade and Courtney over the next year preparing. I mean, we're coming up already. You're already almost done with 2022, but we'll prepare for the reporting and work together. If there's any help that they need from us in complying with that standard, we're more than happy to take the time to help with that. GASB 91, conduit debt obligations, that would be if there's any debt that's being held by the town on behalf of someone else. The town's not necessarily responsible for paying down that debt, but they're holding it for someone else. I'm not sure that there's anything that will apply to the town there for GASB 91. 92 is also effective in 2022, and those are just kind of some cleanup, some practical application that will enhance the reporting. So we'll go through and look and see if there's anything that's applicable in those standards that needs to be addressed in 2022. GASB 93, there are certain paragraphs that are effective for 2022 and 2023. That establishes accounting and reporting requirements related to the replacement of interbank offered rates, such as LIBOR. And so again, it's just meant to provide consistent, cohesive reporting across all governmental entities. That's what's coming up in regards to GASB standards. And again, we'll just make sure that we are staying on top of that and we communicate. If there's ever any questions from staff, they're more than happy to reach out to us. We will provide, advisory services, guidance throughout the year, and that's all part of our services. So there's never going to be any additional, charges to the town for that. That's part of us being your auditors, that you can reach out to us with any of those questions. We'd rather take care of those things ahead of getting here for the audit and kind of have everything run smoothly. We're happy to take any questions that you might have about the report, about the process.
Quick question on
Yes.
the capital leases. Was that our heavy construction equipment or front load? Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, we lease those for 3 years, and obviously, unlike our small vehicle leases where we pay $1 at the end of the lease and we keep it, the heavy equipment, we lease those for 3 years. We know we're not going to write a check for, $107,000 to buy that grader. We're going to lease another one. And so those were those two that we did last year were the ones that we restated 2020 for, was for the heavy equipment. And then we also did, she mentioned an audit adjustment for the 2021 equipment, that heavy equipment that we leased. We recorded that, and it doesn't qualify as a lease.
Okay. Anybody else have questions?
I just have one. Has staff come up with a concept or a plan to address the sewer rate for new customers plan?
I have an idea, but we haven't actually come up with a plan at this point.
Thank you.
So does that mean that we have people that didn't pay for sewer?
No, they pay for sewer. So like the example where so if someone gets a new house and it's a new house, they pay a base fee until the next May when the sewer's recalculated. They pay a base fee, they don't pay usage. And so there's a potential loss of revenue there. So yeah, my idea would be is to try and figure out some type of average usage, and just apply that to every new home built.
Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I have a couple more questions.
Trustee Wickman?
Did we have the slide presentation in our information, or?
No, we just included the draft of the statements.
Okay. I think it would be helpful for us to have that so that we could follow it as we're going through it the next year, next time,
Okay.
whatever. Just would be helpful, I think. And then I also wondered about our financial statements of why does it say draft on the pages?
So the draft is provided to give everyone an opportunity to read the audit report. It's a draft form right now. The next step would be, once it's approved, then we'll provide a management rep letter to the town staff, get that signed, and then we can issue a final report. But the draft is just made available for everyone to read, and if there's any questions or any changes, then there's an opportunity to go through that at this point before it goes final.
So who approves?
So part of this action agenda item is the board will approve the acceptance of this audit at this point in time. In fact, that would be my recommendation on this action item, would be that it gets approved.
Well, but technically we don't approve, right? Because we don't
Yes,
really.
you technically do.
We technically accept it, I believe, rather than approve it. Is what
Yeah.
my
You approve it.
experience would tell me, that we can't approve it because we don't know the detail on it. We have to kind of take your word for it. And I would feel better if it didn't say draft on it when it's something that's coming to us to accept, I guess.
Well, I apologize. This is the way it's been done since I've been here. Is we
I know.
we present a draft and the board approves the draft at this point in time. I'm not sure how we get around that, because the auditors have to present certain information to the board before we can finalize the statements.
Okay.
They have to provide certain details. We can't give you a finalized version before you approve it.
Trustee Wakeman, so in accounting and reporting and even fraud examinations, when you're giving a report to a client or a community, the draft, what's being presented to the client is always in draft form, and it should say draft, because if it came through as not draft or not final, people may have mistaken the financials as the final ones that haven't been approved. It's pretty common. I understand what you're saying, but it's common practice in when you're providing a report that it say draft before, then it gets approved, then it's final.
So are we presenting, so are we, I'm accepting the draft as presented? Is that how it's worded?
So you had in the packet the details of the audit, which is the draft financials for us to review what was completed.
Yeah.
This evening, we are approving the final, we're approving the draft, which will become final. And then that would be posted as final draft.
Okay.
Not as a final draft, but as a final.
That's final, yes. It
Well,
won't have
it's
draft on
it is the final draft,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. I mean, it won't have draft on it anymore, is the point of conversation.
The final report
Yeah.
submitted to the state is what I.
Correct.
Sure.
Yeah. Any other questions? Anything else? Well, I do want to say excellent job on presenting. It was very clear, and I do like your documents. I was able to follow them very clearly in the packet when I read the packet a couple days ago. So, thank you very much. All right. Hearing nothing other, I'll take a motion on the matter.
I move to approve the 2021 financial statements and submit a copy to those statements to the state of Colorado.
Second.
Town clerk, please call for a vote.
Trustee Wakeman,
Yes.
Trustee Beckman,
Yes.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Lane,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich,
Yes.
Mayor Austin.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Hold it.
Oh,
Madam, we have Trustee Rodriguez.
hey, Trustee Rodriguez.
Yes.
Okay, good. Motion carries.
I realize I've missed a couple meetings.
Thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Thank you, Wade. So we have, the next presentation is the GLIC Global Settlement Agreement presented by Scott Holwick, Special Water Counsel. Please join us.
Appreciate it. Good evening, and thank you, Madam Mayor, trustees, for your time. This isn't much of a presentation. We put in your packet a two-page, concise, very summarized memo that hopes to convey to you what actions we've taken to negotiate a global agreement that affects the town's GLIC water in its portfolio. I hinted at this when we had our workshop a couple months ago that we've been working on this. This is something that we were incidentally involved with. The Greeley Loveland Irrigation Company shares that we own and have owned for 25 years-ish, or thereabouts, are an asset that we intend to take to water court to change so we can use those agricultural shares for our municipal water supply at some point. And there's been a conversation about when and how and all that kind of stuff for a couple of years. But during that time, concurrently, the town of Windsor went to water court to change its shares of the GLIC system. And even after 7 or 8 previous change cases adjudicated by Greeley, town of Evans, Central Colorado Water Conservancy District, and the town of city of Loveland, the town of Windsor ran into a buzzsaw. And the city of Loveland determined that even after all of those template-esque change cases had gone through water court with relatively the same terms and conditions, the same provisions, that Loveland thought at this point it ought to fight what had historically been done to preserve some of their rights that they anticipated needing to use into the future. So that case got held up. It's been held up for 4 years now. It started in 2018. We're in 2022. We didn't file a statement of opposition on behalf of the town. We're outsiders looking in. We have a passive interest. We're, of course, always interested when shares get changed if we hold those shares, because sometimes cases take weird trajectories and they affect future change applicants, which is what we are. So we've been involved with a negotiated settlement for the last, 10 months, 8 months, 11 months. It's been a while. We got pulled in because everyone's aware that we hold GLIC shares. Everyone's aware that we want to change our GLIC shares for our municipal water supply. And so they invited us to come in to participate with Windsor and Greeley and Loveland and the Greeley Loveland Irrigation Company, which obviously is the fulcrum of all of this activity. And we accepted the opportunity to do that because at the end of the day, we wanted to be on the inside talking versus on the outside receiving what it is that we're going to have to follow when we go to water court. So that has been going on mostly outside of our realm, between parties with a lot more monetary resources and a lot more lawyering and a lot more engineering that's been invested in this water court case, which we're not in. And we've been allowed to receive documents, review documents, discuss documents internally with town administrator, with Forrest Leaf, the town's consulting engineer. And we finally have a document to bring to you which requires approval for this global settlement to be effective. We'll be asking you for your approval and acceptance of that document. City of Greeley's similarly doing the same thing concurrently with Milliken, as is the town, City of Loveland. I don't know if they're a city or a town. It's Loveland. And also Evans as the primary municipal governments that are involved in this particular set of water rights. And the Greeley Loveland Irrigation Company will also be approving it because they have continuing obligations for administration, deliveries of water, and making sure that the limits that are being placed upon the Windsor case, as well as future cases, including ours, are complied with. So that's the long and short of it. The documents are about this thick. I asked Cheryl not to provide them to you, particularly when you were reading audit documents. I thought that'd be really cruel and unusual. But in any regard, they're all attachments to this global settlement agreement. The global settlement agreement itself is 17 pages with signature pages on top of that. But the rest of them are attachments of previous decrees, previous engineering reports that were relied upon to form the new limitations, the new provisions that are going to be attached to the Windsor change case and future change cases, Greeley's, Evans, Milliken's, etc. So that's the presentation. I can go through some of the highlights if you'd like. I'm afraid that you may glaze over a little bit. At the end of the day, the real issue for Loveland is they would like to impose some additional volumetric limitations on people that are changing, or entities that are changing water into the future, that are a little tighter than what was historically allowed. So we've always assumed we had about 100 acre-feet of consumptive use yield to be able to use in our municipal system when we go through water court, based upon what had been done in all those previous cases that I mentioned. We're going to be short of that when we go through our water court case based upon this settlement, but not substantially short of that. It's just a small haircut. And in exchange for that, we don't have Loveland going into water court and trying to decimate what we're trying to do. Nor do we have Greeley, nor do we have Evans, nor do we have any of the other parties to this global settlement agreement. It does not buy us total immunity, because any other party in the South Platte Basin in Division I water court can come in and try to take ours apart as well. These are the most likely participants because they're all very vested in this system, and those that have a passing interest probably don't care what we're doing. So I feel really good about bringing this to you, not because it's a great deal, but because we have to be participatory to preserve our rights when we go to water court, and we think that this is a legitimately decent deal for the town to be a participant and to be tethered to this global agreement. There are very few drawbacks. If we didn't sign, I suppose people be angry with us. I don't know what the political ramifications are for you all. But we've been in good faith negotiating with this, and again, mostly passively, because we're not driving this bus. It's really more Windsor who's really in a vice without having the ability to use those change water rights to exchange for tap credits for developers who've been waiting for a really long time now. So they're really the impatient ones. We can wait this out for another couple of years. The only other thing I would mention before I take questions or answer anything that you guys have is we don't have a timeline yet for when we're going to go to water court for that. We needed to see this dust settle to make sure we had some certainty that we could rely upon when we go. We assume that there is at least another applicant going forward with a change case relatively quickly. It's probably going to be Greeley. We may want to wait till they go to see what that plunge means in the global market or in the Division I water court. But we do want to do that relatively soon. Once we send an application into water court and we begin that process, we're entitled to concurrently file with an administrative request to begin to use that water for our portfolio. So the 100 acre-feet that we have now-ish can't be used for what we need it to be used for. As soon as we file the water court application, we can ask the state to approve a 1-year temporary approval for us using that in our municipal portfolio, and we can continue that 1-year rolling approval as long as it takes for us to get our court case adjudicated, which will probably be about 3 years. So it helps us put more wet water in the system, but we don't have a date at which we're anticipating bringing that to the board for its approval and its direction to go forward. That was a lot. I apologize. Please let me know if there's something that you'd like me to clarify, or if you would like some more specificity with regard to what you're being asked to sign. It's really an acceptance of, again, some volumetric limitations for the different types of water that go through the Greeley Loveland system. There's a direct flow water right, There's a water right that gets stored in the reservoirs that then gets delivered, and then there's additional storage limitations. They're roughly the same as they always have been, but they're a little tighter than they used to be. Greeley Loveland Irrigation Company has the bulk of the responsibility to administer how those deliveries get made through their system to the shareholders that are entitled to them. And that's really the 10,000-foot version versus telling you that we have 10,000 acre-feet in the system that's allocated to all the shareholders on an equitable basis.
So if we get the 1 year right to use and we haven't been to water court, what happens in year 2?
Yeah, so we have to be in water court to apply for that 1 year right, or that 1 year approval period, Madam Mayor. So once we do that, as soon as we file that application, we can concurrently serve on the state a request to have them approve us using it for 1 year under what we anticipate the limitations will be under our change case. And we won't get through it in 1 year, so we'll ask for a second year. We'll probably ask for a third year. If there's a really unforeseen occasion, we'll ask for a fourth year. We're entitled to. We're entitled to 5 years of temporary 1 year approvals from the state as an administrative approval versus a judicial decree that the water court will ultimately grant.
And do we have any estimation on how much it's going to cost us to go through water court?
I'd love to see Greeley do it first to give you a really confident answer. This template, the set of limitations that are being imposed upon all future change case applicants based upon what Windsor's gone through should provide an absolute roadmap. We will not have any difficulty getting our relatively small number of shares adjudicated. We may ask for additional elements to our case, such as if we have excess water, can we exchange it back up to the Hillsborough ditch? Will the Hillsborough ditch allow us to run it through? Can we store it in a bucket that we may or may not have? Those are complicating factors, but if you go back to the case that we adjudicated for augmentation plan that took 7 years, cost a fair amount of money, it would be a very, very minor portion of that, in my opinion, at this point, without knowing all the elements, without knowing what opposers outside of this group that are signing this might bring to the table. Again, it would be great for Greeley to come in and file their application next month, and we could glean a little bit from that. So I'll ballpark it and say if everything goes relatively smoothly, we're talking probably about a $15,000, $20,000, no frills, no strings attached kind of an expenditure, which may be a 2023 budgetary item. It's possible that it's a little bit more than that, and Forrest may have to do some additional work to provide some engineering support to some claims that we haven't really clarified yet. So, we might get up double that if we have a more complicated case based upon some storage buckets we don't have rights to use yet. So, but I think that's a 2023 budget, and I would submit to the trustees that if we anticipated, let's say, $50,000 for a water court case, that would not be a single year budget expenditure. We'd file it, we'd begin to adjudicate it, we'd have all sorts of conversations with opposers. It would take probably 2.5 years if we were lucky and got through relatively easily. So it might be 3 budget year periods, so we'd spread those costs out over. And I wouldn't anticipate a trial on this particular case, but I can't guarantee that.
Got it. Okay, questions from the board. Trustee Rodriguez.
I have none.
Trustee Lane.
I don't have any.
Trustee Wakeman.
So am I understanding right that we're going to get less usage of our water?
We don't have any finite amount of water that we're entitled to yet, because we've never changed that water. We've just always put in 100 acre-feet as a likely yield based upon what had happened in court in cases previously. So that hypothetical estimate of 100 acre-feet is probably more like 93 acre-feet, maybe 94 acre-feet. But yes, that would be the result of this agreement, and it would be the result if we didn't sign the agreement and went to water court. We just have less protection against people that would take shots at us. So that's fair. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Trustee Dean.
No questions.
Trustee Beckman.
No questions.
Mayor Pro Tem Early.
I have no questions.
All right. Hearing no further questions, I'll take a motion on the matter. Thank you very much for your presentation.
You're more than welcome, Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
I move to approve the global settlement agreement and direct the mayor to sign it.
I second.
Thank you. Town Clerk, please call for a vote.
Trustee Beckman?
Yes.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Trustee Lane?
Yes.
Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Trustee Wakeman?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mayor Austin?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, trustees. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Scott.
Good evening. Okay, next item on the agenda is the approval of the purchase rectangle flash and beacons from Safety and Construction Supply. John Rabus, Streets and Facilities Director. Maintain yourself. Calm.
I already prepared it.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
CDOT has approved the installation of 2 sets of the rapid flashing beacons over at the intersections of Grace and on Irene. So we're waiting to make sure CDOT would give us approval before we ask them to make the purchase.
No.
Okay.
You said the price is going up. Is that what you were talking about earlier?
No, that was an ice slicer.
Oh, sorry. My mistake.
Okay. Questions from the board on these flashing beacons, starting with Trustee Dean?
Yeah, I understand that this is an item that wasn't budgeted, and where is the money coming from?
The money
The kitchen.
will be coming out of the infrastructure repair and maintenance line item.
Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Beckman?
No questions.
Trustee Rodriguez?
Did they say how quickly we can get these?
2 to 4 weeks.
2 to 4 weeks? And the CDOT only just approved those 2? Are we allowed to have more than 2?
CDOT approved 2 for time being. We'll continue to work to get more approved.
Stop pushing your luck. Trustee Lane?
I don't have any questions.
Trustee Wakeman?
Thank you, Mayor. So if the funds are coming out of infrastructure, is it this year's budget or reserves?
It's a part of the current budget right now.
Okay, all right. So specifically not budgeted, but money's there.
Right.
To cover it. Got it.
And we talked about doing this next year. Is there a reason? I mean, I'm very happy that we're doing it quicker, but is there a reason that we're doing it quicker? Because I remember when this was first presented, we talked about probably next year.
Correct. We did talk about possibly doing it next year, but the consensus was if we could do it this year.
Just do it.
Let's get it done.
Okay. Yeah. Just wondered.
But our goal is to try to get it done before school
starts.
Gotcha. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just to clarify, so the money was budgeted to be spent on street improvements, sidewalk improvements, that type of stuff. What John's going to do is we're going to forego some of those other things to spend this money within the budget. Just to be clear.
And budget for those next year?
Yeah.
Once we get CDOT approval.
Yeah. Theoretically, we'll include budget money for additional flashers next year, if we can get there with CDOT. Yeah.
No, my question was, you budget for those items you're foregoing this year for next year?
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Will we be able to reduce the speed limit immediately to,
Not immediately.
as a school zone?
CDOT has to do another study. In order.
Are they going to study their study?
It's a study over a study over a study.
Okay.
We're still waiting on the speed study, so we're hoping that maybe they can get the school zone study done quicker.
So would the school zone study be done with speed study, or are there 2 separate ones?
They're separate.
Studies.
Can I ask a question about that? Would
Yes.
the speed study go down further, or is that just?
The speed study
All the way
goes
down?
all the way down
To Two
to
Rivers?
60 and Two Rivers.
Okay.
And then through town.
But you can't do a school study until there's school in session, right?
Well, they would have to schedule it.
Yeah, that's why we're waiting, right? Because
Waiting.
it's summertime and there's no school in session, so.
There's
yeah.
no school in session.
So, just to wait.
Would this speed study institute school zone speed limits on 60? Is that my understanding?
Right, that was a part of it.
Right.
Then the town has to request.
Right. And we requested a speed study.
6, 8 weeks ago?
No, much longer. much longer. It's probably been almost 4 months.
Yeah, it was
If not-
after the last bad accident.
Yeah.
I was witness to the one yesterday. Right.
Oh, the motorcycle?
Yeah.
I was there right after.
Matt was the
So
off-duty on site.
did the motorcycle pull out from Traders Junction, or was he going down 60?
He was going down 60.
Yeah.
And we think what happened was the car was turning and the person coming out on the broad, on the 60, couldn't see him behind the car turning, which is it's a problem. And she went out and they hit and it was violent.
Got it.
Yeah.
It sounds as if he'll be fine, though.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did a little checking on that today.
Okay, good. Good to hear. Yeah.
All right, so coming back to the rectangle flashing beacons, I'll take a motion from Trustee Rodriguez on the matter.
I move to authorize the town administrator to purchase 8 rectangular flashing beacons from the Safety Construction and Supply for $22,735.76.
Second.
Town clerk, please call for a vote.
Trustee Dean.
Yes.
Trustee Lane.
Yes.
Trustee Rodriguez.
Yes.
Trustee Wakeman.
Yes.
Sorry. Trustee Beckman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich.
Yes.
Mayor Austin.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Heaven help anybody that said no on that one.
I know where you all live.
There you go. There's the threat. All right. You're up next, too. So, approval of sidewalk replacement at various locations around Milliken Elementary. Tell us what's going on there, please. John Ravis, Streets and Facilities Director.
Just give you a little bit of background. The sidewalk curb and gutter along Quintine is deteriorated. I attached a couple of pictures in the packet there. Then also along Olive Avenue, there's a couple of large pieces of sidewalk that's actually broken and missing. And we'd like to improve the sidewalk conditions and reduce pedestrian hazards along with this project.
I've got a question about why wasn't this all included in your other estimate for the whole town?
Because I was waiting to see what the school district would do.
Oh, you thought they might do the repairs themselves?
Right, because they're doing a lot of work along the east side of the school.
Okay, did you actually get confirmation that they weren't going to do it?
I did. That's why it's before you now.
But they got all this money now.
Doesn't mean they're going to spend it on that.
Not on Milliken, sorry. Did you take it to the school board? Did anyone take it to the school board and ask instead of us spending the money?
I just waited for their construction packet to come out. and review.
There still are sidewalks.
I think we have to get to the fact that the sidewalk belongs to the town, the gutter belongs to the town, the edging into the street belongs to the town. I mean, in a perfect world, we were hoping that the school would improve it on their own, but they are our assets, and we need to maintain them and repair them.
All right.
But good thought.
Yeah. There you go. Questions from the board? Trustee Wakeman.
Just wondering about the Safe Routes to School grant.
The application comes out in August, and we're pretty set to go.
We're ready.
So,
Okay.
we are.
Thank you.
We're excited to put that in and keep our fingers crossed.
And do we know what we're asking for?
Quite a bit, 900.
We'll ask for the maximum of $750.
$750.
And we're hoping that's the ground amount that comes out this year. We won't know for sure the ground amount until the 1st of August.
Right. And I'm sorry if I'm asking something again that you answered. Do we know where? Is it around both MES and
Right now, we're
Civica
focusing on the
middle school.
I'm sorry, say that
We're
again.
focusing around the middle school and then south towards Alice along Forest Avenue.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Trying to connect that east side of town with the schools.
Not southeast.
Trustee
I'm
Lane?
backwards.
Yeah.
Questions?
No, I'm good.
Trustee Rodriguez?
So I have 2 to 3. Okay, so I have 2 to 3. you communicated that the school is currently doing construction around there. So I guess my question would be is, are we going to wait till they're done with the construction there to do the repairs? And if not, if there's damage to the repairs that are done, who is going to be held accountable? Is it going to be the school, or are we going to have to redo the work again?
No, if there's any damages, it would be, the construction company would be liable for it. The school district, they won't get off they won't be outside of their property, or would they be inside of our right-of-way?
But I was under the, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, I was under the impression or understanding that they were going to potentially put modulars there.
Right, they have it there.
Okay, so if the school happens to damage them,
They would be responsible, the construction company would.
But if they, okay. So then, with regard to the construction company, I kind of researched them, and they're fairly new. And I read through the contract, and I didn't see any type of warranty on them because they seem to just open in 2021. So
Are you talking for central paving?
Correct.
Right, they are fairly new. We used them with our big sidewalk replacement. I've had great luck with them. On the last go-around of sidewalk replacement, very few complaints.
Well, okay. Just with regards to that piece of it, so down where my house is, the repairs that they had done on the corner, they scraped up all of the, what is it called?
Asphalt?
I'm sorry?
Asphalt?
Not the asphalt. What did we do? The ceiling.
Oh, the microseal?
Yes, that was all scraped up, and that hasn't been replaced. So I just want to make sure that everything will go okay and there's a warranty.
Yeah, I don't foresee it not going okay. Can I get your address and I'll go just look at it?
Yep, afterwards.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. That's it.
There's only 2 questions.
I know I said 2 to 3, so 2.
Can't you pick up your mind?
No.
I mean, it's either 2 or 3. All right. Trustee Dean, do you have 2 or 3 questions?
I have one.
All right, feel free.
What is the town's policy on sidewalk replacement in front of private property?
As far as, like, if it was a trip hazard or...
As far as
My
replacing?
experience says adjacent property owners are typically responsible to replace sidewalks. Is that part of the town's policy?
Yes, we have been replacing the sidewalks.
Pardon?
We have been replacing the sidewalks.
I understand. I just asked what the policy was. Is there anything in the code about the policy on sidewalk
don't know.
replacement?
It does.
Yes, there is.
Okay.
And it does say the property owner
Right.
adjacent to is
Right.
required.
And it is?
And it is.
Pardon?
That the town does it.
The town is responsible for it,
It says the property owner.
and so is the property owner. It's kind of a two-way street there because it's still within the right-of-way of the town, and in town code is the property owner is responsible for it too.
That
So
was-
you have a give and take.
That was the point I was making. Typically, sidewalks are the adjacent property owner's responsibility. And have we approached the school with that as part of our policy?
No, we have not since I've been here.
No.
I'd rather have the sidewalk replacement done to our standards than their standards.
Oh, they're still to our standards.
Yeah.
They have to meet our standards. It's just they are responsible typically for replacing them. And I know that the town has replaced other sidewalks. I know they did it in my neighborhood, for my neighbor across the street. And I appreciate that. But with the school and as much as it is, it would seem like it might be worthwhile to have that discussion.
Okay. Trustee Beckman, questions?
No questions?
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich.
Yeah, I have 1, maybe 1.5.
I want to hear.
Why all of a sudden is this a priority? when we had a list of all these other deals that we're going to do in town, why is this a number one priority?
This was a part of the priority when I first came. I was asked to address this.
He was on a list somewhere.
He was waiting for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's been a mess for years.
Do we have a list that's prioritized of what's the worst ones in town?
Yeah.
Under your new program that we just approved?
Right, we have a list of the sidewalks.
Okay. Is
He
that
had
part
it
of
done
the new
before the
computer program that we, software that we approved?
He had done it prior to that.
Yeah, prior to that, I've done a sidewalk survey.
So my question is the sidewalks plan implemented into the new software that we just approved?
No.
For you to manage the streets and
Because the new software was just asphalt.
Okay.
That sounds like 2 questions.
All right.
I know.
I went over and done. Thank you.
People are difficult tonight.
Wait till I take over.
Y'all in trouble.
Yeah.
All right, hearing no further discussion on whether we have 1 or 2 questions or not, I will take a motion on the matter.
I move to authorize the mayor to sign construction agreement with Central Paving for sidewalk replacement at various locations around the elementary school for $25,784.
I second.
Town clerk, please call for a vote.
Trustee Lane,
Yes.
Trustee Rodriguez,
Yes.
Trustee Wakeman,
Yes.
Trustee Beckman,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich,
Yes.
Trustee Dean,
No.
Mayor Austin.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, next 2 items, I will be stepping out due to conflict of interest since I am president of the Milliken Events Committee. And Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich will be taking over.
And
All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
And I too need to recuse myself as well due to conflict of interest.
Okay.
For the next 2 items, I'm sorry, I should have clarified.
All right. Next item on the agenda is adoption of resolution 22.14 for Beef and Bean Day fireworks.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich and trustees. Tonight before you is a resolution to approve a fireworks permit for Beef and Bean Day from the Milliken Events Committee. It will be held on August 13th, and they do have approval from Clint with Thompson Rivers Parks and Rec, who's the property owner. And I am available for any questions.
Do we have a copy?
Start with Peggy. Do you have any questions? Trustee Wakeman.
Do we have a copy of the agreement with TRPR?
Yes, ma'am. If it wasn't included, I apologize. I do have it in my book.
It's in the.
It is in here. Okay.
It's probably towards the back. I apologize.
All right. I probably just missed it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Trustee Lehman. Any questions?
No.
Trustee Dean?
No.
No questions.
No questions? I got one. Liability-wise, whose insurance policy covers the fire hazard if we happen to catch a house on fire? Does the events committee have insurance for that? Does town insurance cover that? Or does the fireworks company cover that? Or all of the above?
That is a great question, and I will be happy to find out and let you guys know. I apologize, don't have that information.
I have a related question on that. I noticed that the application called for submission of the fireworks company's insurance policy. Was that received? I mean, couldn't tell by what we have.
It's submitted directly to the events committee.
Okay. So that would be a place to start and see what that covers.
Can we ask one of the events committee members?
We'll have Elizabeth come back in. We have a question for you, if you could please take the podium.
Depends on your answer.
Maybe a couple.
How may I assist you?
So, could you ask?
We're just curious, the application here on the fireworks calls toward the bottom for a series of items to be submitted to the town, one of which was the operator's proof of public liability insurance. Was that received by the events committee, and do we know what it covers?
Okay, so they submit that through the fire department, because Chief Ty Drage is the one that will be looking for it. So they do all the liability, it comes through, and then our license will be given to the town. Once Ty Drage with the fire department approves it. Does that make sense?
So they would be liable if there was a fire? The fireworks company?
Yes, the fireworks company is liable if there is a fire. We also have to pay overtime for the Front Range Fire Department. We're waiting on the quote to be out there and put out any fires that may start. We're estimating it will come in just under $1,000, we hope, for that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So the question was specifically if somebody's house starts on fire, who's liable?
Tri-State Fireworks. They have to show that they have the policy.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to adopt Resolution 2214, approving a fireworks display permit to Tri-State Fireworks to provide a public fireworks display on August 13th, 2022 during the town's annual Beef and Bean Day event.
Second.
Motion and second. Can we have roll call, please?
Trustee Dean.
Yes.
Trustee Lane.
Yes?
Trustee Wakeman.
Yes.
Trustee Beckman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Second item is approval of a license agreement with the Milliken Events Committee. Cheryl Powell, Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich. So this license agreement replaces the lease agreement that we currently had with the Milliken Events Committee. It's a lot cleaner. They share the space with two other businesses, one being the library and the other being Millhouse Coffee. So Town Attorney Matthew Gould created this license agreement to address the Milliken Events Committee utilizing some of the space at the library/coffee house plus storage in the basement.
It's just to store items.
For Milliken Events, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
No.
No questions. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the license agreement for the use of real property between the town of Milliken and the Milliken Events Committee.
Second it.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Lane.
Yes?
Trustee Wakeman.
Yes.
Trustee Beckman.
Yes.
Trustee Dean.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich.
Yes.
Motion carries. Yes.
Not the storage area.
To find a place for my dog to go.
Yes, well, at least we give forewarning. Okay, the next reports in the packet are written. I would like to note that we did get a library report. If you had a chance to look at that, it is quite pleasing, especially the attendance. Our library over here for our little library, as I like to call it, in Milliken, really increased their usages in June. The total circulation went from 544 in May to 815 in June. Door count went from 386 to 910. And children attendance went from 119 to 339. So it's great to know that the library is really putting forth effort and doing summer programs for us. So I want to thank them.
And it's
very
a big,
much.
yeah. So then it's a big difference from the prior year when we probably had maybe 30 people a month in there. So
Yeah, it's great.
Probably why they're our honored organization this year for Beef and Bean Day. Millhouse is our honored business. Peggy Wakeman is our honored citizen, and our grand marshals will be Civica. So you now know. Next meeting in a couple of weeks, we will go over final Beef and Bean Day plans. Is there any further business come before the board? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? We're out.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich, you've always motioned to adjourn. You had me all messed up on my minutes.